Welcome to the Proven Podcast, where it doesn't matter what you think, only what you can prove. People say social media doesn't work for B2B. They're wrong. Hailey Rowe proves that 80% of B2B leads come from one platform, LinkedIn. Today, she shares her 4-step system that turns connection into paying customers. The show starts now.
Where we're with today is with Hailey, and Hailey is an expert when it comes to LinkedIn. We've talked about this 1,000 times about how to scale and what to do, and a lot of you guys have asked me about which social media you should do. Should you do Facebook or Instagram? I'm telling you, this person has explained it to me. She is a goddess when it comes to this. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about LinkedIn.
So I'm curious, why LinkedIn? Out of everything else, I know there's a specific process and we'll go over that. Why have you had phenomenal results in LinkedIn versus anything else?
Yeah. Well, the first reason is a lot of times LinkedIn is considered a networking platform. And so it's one of those platforms where people don't just go on for entertainment. So it's more, I find it a better use of my time. So I'm going on there to either connect with partners, connect with potential clients. People get on, get off. It's not something you sit around and scroll all day long. So that's the first thing, is it is a networking platform. The second thing is you can find really high caliber people you're looking to target. So with a tool called LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is something that LinkedIn has within its system, you can purchase that. And it's very useful because you can target people who have either, if you're looking for people with purchasing power, if you're looking for leaders of big companies, if you're looking for a certain type of keyword in their profile, there's a lot you can do with targeting that you cannot do on other platforms. And you don't have to pay astronomical amount like you would on Facebook ads, for example, to target the same kinds of people. And the other thing with LinkedIn is the people on there generally do have higher purchasing power. The average median income is higher than other platforms. And there is a report actually from Kinsta that 80% of B2B social media leads are generated through LinkedIn. For me personally, it is my top. I track Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn and where my clients come from and where my discovery calls come from. And it's the top platform for me personally. And a lot of my clients, it has been too. And you don't have to post all the time on LinkedIn to be successful. That's the last thing I love about it, because you don't have to be dancing around in Instagram Reels. You don't have to be posting 5 times a day. If you post a couple times a week, that's great, but you don't have to be successful. It's more about the conversations you're having on LinkedIn and your messages that matter and the connection requests you're sending on LinkedIn. So you don't really have to worry if, you find that you don't want to post all the time.
What I love about it is it's intentional. Again, when people go on Instagram, we're goofing off. If someone goes on TikTok, we're goofing off. Everyone's there for a reason. It's kind of like going to a networking. Everyone has an intention and they're trying to execute on a specific goal. Now, when you go on LinkedIn, one of the things we talked about is that the way that you do this, your process, and when you're scaling and you're trying to go to the next level, is also very intense. There's a very specific process you have. And I thank you for coming on and sharing it. We're going to give exact details, which is why if you guys are listening to this, I'm sorry, she's going to be sharing her screen and she's going to be showing us. We're going to show you exactly what to do. So some of you guys are going to have to run over on YouTube and actually look at us, but I'll try my best to describe it as we're doing this. But there's a very intentful way of implementing your scaling process. So I'd love you to kind of share as much of that as you could.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to show you, because I think a lot of people don't even know where to start on LinkedIn. And so I'm going to show you 5 different ways you can use LinkedIn to connect with your ideal clients or your ideal partners. So the first way is just direct to that person. So if you know your ideal client is a lawyer, or they are accountants, or they are HR people, whatever it is, you could target that on LinkedIn. Now, if you work with moms, or you work with somebody who wouldn't be a certain job title, or maybe it's more of an attribute they have, like maybe they're type A's, well, then you can't necessarily type that into LinkedIn or put that in Sales Navigator to find them. But you can get creative and think about who would be people who have that audience who I could collaborate with and partner with. So one way to use LinkedIn is to connect with your ideal clients if they're a certain type of professional. The other option would be to think about who has that audience who I can connect with as a potential partner and form a referral partnership with them, or get on their show or their summit. So That's another way you can use LinkedIn. And then the other way you can use LinkedIn is in your posts and in your conversations, if relevant. You can decide where you want to send traffic to. So if LinkedIn isn't your main jam and you do want to get everybody over onto your email list for your free guide or your free class or something like that, you can use LinkedIn as the stepping stone and then invite people to connect with you on whatever other platform or whatever email list you have. And then the last way to use LinkedIn is to find corporate coaching and job opportunities. So sometimes you may want to use LinkedIn to get speaking opportunities at a business, or I had a client who got a corporate coaching job from LinkedIn and who she was connecting with. So there's it's not just always to get a job. I think a lot of people dismiss LinkedIn if they're an entrepreneur because they think, oh, it's just if I'm looking to get hired. But the truth is there's all these different ways you could use it. So to talk about where do you find these people who you are looking to connect with once you decide, am I going to use it for partnerships or am I going to use it for potential clients? Well, once you decide that, now we have to find them. And the ways that you can use LinkedIn to find your ideal clients or partners includes the following. One is Sales Navigator, which I'm going to show you pictures of in just a second and how it works. Two is by using the search bar on LinkedIn just to search certain job titles. Three is using LinkedIn groups. I will show you examples of that too. The fourth way is going to pages, so company pages where you think your ideal client would work, and you can click on the employees list. And then the last way would be posts of businesses who complement what you do. So in other words, if I'm looking to connect with lawyers or something, I might go to a complementary business that serves lawyers, see their posts and see the lawyers commenting on their posts. And that might be how I find my people. So let's go.
Question about
Oh, yeah.
when you're doing that, when you're talking about commenting on other posts and doing that, is there a specific way to communicate with them where it resonates with them, get a better?
Definitely. So two things. One, don't go to a direct competitor who does exactly what you do or does the same service that you do and comment on their posts and like what I call poach. That's not cool. But what I am saying, like if somebody, like I am a business coach, maybe I go to somebody who does personal development because usually business owners are into personal development. So maybe I go to Tony Robbins' page or something. And he's an author, does the events, we're not in competition with each other. We don't sell the same services. And that would make sense for me to chime in. And now, as far as how you do that, you typically want to read what they're saying and then respond either with something out of curiosity, like an intentional question that can engage a conversation. So if they say, oh, like one thing I'm stumped on, like maybe they commented something they're stumped on, and you could ask them a question and provide a tip that's helped you. And if they want and say like, if you want to stay connected, or I'd love to hear how it goes for you, or feel free to stay connected, click on feel free to send a connection request or something like that. So I will show some examples. I do have some screenshots too later about how to further engage with people, but does that help a little bit?
Yeah, I literally had a conversation with someone who about 3 weeks ago was asking questions about Switzerland. It's like, hey, I'm going with my mom. Anybody has any ideas about this? And we happen to be connected. I was like, if you're going with your mom, you have two options, because he wanted to go to Interlaken. I was like, don't go to Interlaken. Too much hiking, you're going to blow your mom's legs out. Go to Lucerne and walk around. And because of that, we have now formed a relationship and built out rapport. And now I'm coaching in that environment. So that's one of the examples that you're kind of think you're going towards.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry.
Always lead with curiosity and how can I be useful to this person? And then how can we stay connected? Yeah. So that was really good. Okay. So now let's talk about Sales Navigator. So here's the first way, as I mentioned, you can find your people. This is a screenshot of just some of the things you can target within LinkedIn. So for people who are just listening and can't see the slides, you can target certain roles. You can target what level they're at in their role. So if you wanted to contact new business owners versus old business owners, you could do that. You could contact them based on how big their company is. You can contact them based on, college they went to, or industry they're in, or geography. things like that. And so we're not going to go through how to set up your ideal search in Sales Navigator today, because that's a little more detailed, and that's what we do for clients. But I want you to know that this is available to you, and they have a free trial month. So you could use Sales Navigator for a free trial month and see the power of the targeting you can do. And just to show you another example in Sales Navigator, you will see a search box and you could type in who you're looking for. So I put in retreat, because let's just pretend I'm looking to connect with retreat leaders. Well, if I put that in there, Sales Navigator is going to show me some great people I could select all and send a lot of connection requests out. And here's the thing too about Sales Navigator, you are going to get a higher connection acceptance rate, no matter what. Okay, if you're using the free profile, you just will not get as many people accepting your connection request, and you'll be more limited in how many you can even send within a week. Right now, as of 2023 November, you can send out 200 connection requests per week with Sales Navigator, and that's 800 a month, and that's pretty awesome. And sometimes LinkedIn changes that. So that's why I'm putting the date with that. Sometimes they decide, oh, you can send more. And other times they decide, oh, no, we changed it down to 100. So just so you know, it'll change, but right now it's 200. And the other thing you can do, if you don't have Sales Navigator, so let's say you're like, that sounds cool, but I just need to get my feet wet. If that's the case, you can go to LinkedIn and you can use a search bar. And it's nothing too fancy. You can type in whatever keyword. So I put in travel lifestyle, for example. Let's pretend I'm a travel blogger. I'm looking to connect with blog partners where I can guest write or something.
Travel blogger? Hold on.
I know. But anyways, let's say I put that in, and LinkedIn has different filters. So you could select the people filter to find people who have that in their titles or in their headlines, in their job title or whatever. So that's something you can do, is use the people filter. The other option is there's tons of other filters you can use in the search bar. Like you could search groups, which you just need to select the group filter and then type in the same words or word that you're looking to find groups about, and it will show you. Now, what I don't recommend, LinkedIn groups, once you get in them, I don't think you're going to just be posting a ton in the group and getting a ton of engagement. The reason we join LinkedIn groups is because you can see the members who have the common interest or the common field that they're in, or who are other entrepreneurs to connect with, etc. So you'd want to go directly to the members list and use that to know who to send connection requests to, rather than just joining the group just to post in the group, because they're not very active usually on LinkedIn. So another way you could find your ideal clients and partners if you're using the free version of LinkedIn is you can go to an employee page. Let's pretend I wanted, for some reason, this might be a bad example, but I wanted to connect with employees of Amazon. Well, if that's the case, I go to Amazon, I go to their employees list. So you see in blue if you're watching the slide, there's an employees list here, and you can click on that and you'll be able to see all the employees. And maybe you're looking to connect with a certain division or person within that company. You could look in there and find them there. Now, let's transition. So you've decided I'm going to use LinkedIn to connect with other podcast hosts, or I'm going to use LinkedIn to connect with my target audience. Once you decide that and you are starting to send connection requests out, we now have to talk about how do you actually start conversations, do it in a classy way, build relationships, and network. So here is how to turn connections into clients. There are 4 steps, okay? And I call these my 4 basics of client attraction. So the first step is to connect. So that's just where you send your connection request. And usually on LinkedIn, it will allow you to add a little short note if you'd like. So if you want to add a short note like, hey, notice we're both in the Chicago area, would love to connect. Or, hey, I noticed we're both business owners, would love to connect. Or, hey, I noticed you're a lawyer. I love working with lawyers, would love to connect. So you send that first connection request, then you want to engage with them. So this is, let's say they accept your connection request, which if you're working with myself and my team, ideally your connection acceptance rate will be 30% or above. And that's the point where you can ask an intentional question and get interested in your new connection. So you may say something like, hey, thank you for accepting, my connection request. I'd love to get to know you better. Insert your question. Insert your networking question, your intentional question. What you don't want to do, and I'll share later on this, but you don't want to just ask a question like, what's your favorite color? Waste people's time. But you also don't want to say, want to buy from me? That's also a bad question. So you want something intentional, something that allows you to get to know them. What are you working on these days? What are you excited about? What's your mission? Something that starts a conversation, is not offensive, but also allows you to have an intentional conversation. Okay,
Examples of what, can you give an example of what that one of those would be? If someone was going to reach out, because I know the audience is going to get confused, because I know this is going to surprise you, but most people just ask your favorite color. I'm kidding. Don't do that. What would be an actual one where hey, this one is a guy's line on it. What is your, not your favorite car, your favorite car? Okay, don't do that. What? Yeah. What is one of them that works really well?
Yeah. So for me, because I work with other business owners, one that has worked well for me is, what are you working on these days? Or what are you excited about these days in your business? Or something along those lines. Now, if you don't work with, let's say you do something different, where maybe you do health coaching or something totally random, you might want to ask, what kind of content would be useful for you when it comes to insert your area of expertise? I'm planning some posts, something like that. So you can change it up, and it will depend on who you're targeting and what your approach is. If you're more looking to use LinkedIn to collaborate, then your question might actually be something like, would love to hear more about you and your podcast. I have a podcast as well. Would love to maybe even explore collaborating. Or do you ever take guests? Something like that. Would you be open to exploring collaboration? Something like that. So once they engage back with you, that's where we want to offer a pre-offer. And what a pre-offer is, if you're using LinkedIn to connect with potential clients, a pre-offer is something that gives value and a quick win upfront. And it's an invite to your pre-offer. It's not just saying, hey, you should sign up for my free Facebook challenge next week. It's, I'm actually running a Facebook challenge. It's about this. Would you want to join? Would it make sense for me to send the link over? Something like that. So with the pre-offer, it's either your email freebie, your blog you have that relates to whatever they told you they are looking for help with, or what they're working on, or whatever. It provides a quick win up front, value up front, related to whatever your conversation has been about so far in LinkedIn, okay? So you need to use your emotional intelligence. And if it doesn't make sense to make a pre-offer, obviously you need to understand that means you haven't figured out that they have a challenge or a goal. And you need to do that first before you make a pre-offer. So that might mean more conversation, or, just using your
stuff, right? Because figure out, if you don't have a pre-offer and have one that relates specifically to them, I wouldn't recommend reaching out at that moment. You have to be of service. Something that Hailey talked about instantaneously. Make sure you're giving something, or you're either through curiosity or in service to them. So you're trying to do this. Make sure you understand your audience, what pain they're in, what they need, and then give them something of value to help them go to that next level.
Exactly. And if you're taking the approach of collaboration, then your pre-offer would be more so connecting for the collab chat or talking about the podcast. So it might be a little different if you're doing collaboration. So, you don't need to send them your freebie or anything like that if you're collaborating. But anyway, so you'd have their pre-offer. And then the next phase is to, if it makes sense and if they're ready, go to the sales phase. So that's where it's if they did your freebie, or they did sign up for your free challenge or whatever, and they loved it, oh, hey, how did it go for you? Would it make sense to talk more on a call? Are you looking for more support with XYZ? Or I noticed you said you struggled with blah, blah, blah. Would it make sense to connect deeper? Right? So not everybody's going to be ready for that phase right away, and that's okay. But they may get on your email list in the pre-offer stage and naturally get invited to your sales phase because you have a whole funnel set up. So I just want to let you know, your sales phase doesn't have to be you following up always, inviting them to a call or whatever. It could just be now they're in your email funnel and now they're getting your sales stuff because they did it. Yeah. So now let's talk about, okay, I'm starting to have conversations. I'm connecting with new people. Shouldn't my profile be set up in a way where I look good? And the answer is yes. And so we're going to talk about what kind of things should you look out for in your profile. The first thing is you need to have a mini bio where you share a result that, now take out the word blog, but to the result that you provide as a service provider, coach, consultant, whatever you do to establish credibility. And that needs to be at the top of your profile. And I'll show you pictures in a second. The other thing you want to have in your profile is a link, meaning it allows you to put contact info in your LinkedIn profile. And sometimes, depending on if you have Sales Navigator or not, you could put a link, like a hyperlink to your freebie or something directly at the top of your profile, which I recommend. You also want to have a photo of yourself that's smiling, that's not in a dark environment, that is professional. You want to have an about section that talks about your story, the benefits of what you do, the benefits of partnering or working with you. Your featured section, you can add sections to your LinkedIn profile and customize it a little bit. And one of the sections that LinkedIn allows you to add is something called a featured section. And that is just posts that you want people to see right away when they come to your profile. So I do recommend posting your best work, whether it's testimonials, whether it's your story that you want people to know or whatever, but put that in your featured section. And then the last part is recommendations. You can add that section to your profile as well. And what that is past people you've worked with could leave you recommendations, which are basically testimonials, right? So if you are trying to use LinkedIn to get more podcast gigs, it might make sense to actually have other podcasts you've been on, the host say, hey, this was a great guest. Or for clients, if you're trying to get clients, have your clients leave you testimonials or recommendations. So
Do you have any? So I have a question with that. You're reaching out. I can't believe you put me there. That's terrifying. When you're reaching out for those recommendations, is it okay to reach out to people you've worked with and say, hey, I'd love to give you have you put a recommendation on my LinkedIn? How well does that convert if you are doing it?
Yes. So that would be amazing if your clients can do that. And as far as how long it takes, you could provide, if you wanted, you could say, any chance you could, if you have a chance to leave it this week, I'm happy to offer you a free bonus or something if you want it. If you want to put a timeline on it, that's an option. But yeah, I would just say, hey, like I'm trying to build up my recommendations this month on LinkedIn. Would you be open to leaving a short review about our work together and the wins that you experienced? Something like that.
Now, for those of you who are watching this, she's actually touching my LinkedIn, which I have not. She has now physically touched it more than I have in years. So I apologize, and I'm working on fixing it. My LinkedIn is horrible. I'm working on it. Something that works. That's why disclaimer to make me feel better about myself.
Yes. Well, what we thought would be helpful for the viewers is to show a profile and then show what I would suggest changing on it, right? So, Charles, your profile is not terrible. I know you think it may be, but it's not terrible. So the first thing is I like your profile picture because I can see you. You don't have sunglasses on. It's professional. You're looking at, you're not looking at the camera, which I usually would recommend, but you're looking very visionary. Okay. So it's all good. So you have your profile picture, which is good. You do not have a cover photo though. So this is something that shows up behind your profile picture for anybody who can't see the slides. You want to have a cover photo, and you could make that in canva.com if you want for free. And they have LinkedIn cover photo dimensions in there. And you could make a cover photo that really quickly grabs my attention and shares why I would want to connect with you and or what wins can you provide me. So that would be a good place to put, like, if you're promoting a book right now, you might have your book. Or if you want to be known for your podcast, you might have your podcast title and like what kind of awesome stuff you cover on that. So, or you could, yeah. Sorry.
Should that cover photo remain the same, or should you change it frequently?
Yeah.
What is your idea?
Yeah. You can have an evergreen permanent one that could just summarize like your website and the key benefits of what you provide, or you could change it seasonally or based on what you're trying to promote at the time. So if you have a new cool webinar coming up or class, like you could use it to share that. Now, you have your name very clearly at the top of your profile, and then underneath that, you're going to see your short headline bio. This is where LinkedIn gives you a limited number of characters, so you have to make it short. And I would recommend to you, Charles, yours currently says serial entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author. Okay, so if you want to be known for those things, then great. But if you want to be known for your podcast, we need to put that there. So I would say something like, top, I don't know if your podcast is in the top 1% or something, but if it was, it'd be great to say that. And a top 1% podcast host of name of your podcast. If you want to be known for helping others do X, Y, and Z, and that's your service you provide, you would want to put that in there. So anything that establishes credibility, which best-selling author definitely does, so I'd keep that. And anything you want to be known for and or quickly for people to be able to check you out and or know how you can help them, you'd want to put that in the headline bio. Now, you have your location, which is great, and then you have contact info. Now, what you don't have is a website link, which you should be able to click edit on your profile and scroll the way down, and there should be a section where you can put website and a hyperlink, like what you'd like the website link to say. So if your goal is to send more traffic to your podcast, you could put that. Or if your goal is to send more traffic to a lead magnet to grow your email list, you could put that. But you'd want it to be a juicy title, whatever it is, like, free blah, blah, blah guide, or check out the blah, blah, blah podcast or something like that.
I'm sharing the blah, blah, blah guide. Can this be a link tree, or is it one individual to a specific website, or can you do link tree, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, you could do a link tree, but I would probably recommend sticking to one thing so that it doesn't confuse people. And if you wanted to have a link tree later on, like in your profile or in your featured section or something like that, you could. But it's probably better to just focus on where we really want people to go the most. All right. Now, the other part is you have a featured section, right? So, which is good. I'm happy you have a featured section. You added that to your profile, but you only have, I think, like 1 or 2 links in there, and the links aren't even showing up with a photo. So my suggestion is post whatever it is you want people to know right away, whether maybe it is a post about your book and the story behind it or something. Maybe you have a post about when you did hit XYZ on the charts for the podcast, or maybe it's your offer, you're doing a Black Friday promo. I have no idea, but that could be something you put in your featured section. Obviously, if it's something that's not permanent, like a Black Friday deal, then you probably remove it once the deal's over, but that is a good way to use your featured section. And then you have your work experience, okay? So this was good as far as it's very clear. You have a great background, you have a great education, but with your current business where it says founder of CJS Solutions, it would be a good idea to underneath that put bullet points about what you guys do, what outcome you provide for people who you work with, and or where people could find testimonials in your website. So that would be my suggestion there. And then you even have a recommendation section. Look at you. Very good. And you have 2 recommendations, which is amazing. Or actually, you have more than that. You have like several. So
Didn't even know how. Look at
yeah. So that's great. If you can add more, amazing. But I think that you're doing great with that. So those were just a couple things. And then the last thing is you had, I can't remember if you had anything in your about section, but what I want the listeners to know is in that about section, make sure that you quickly say what benefits you provide to your ideal client, what makes you credible, maybe what's your before and after in a short sentence if you are somebody who provides like a transformation for people. And then at the bottom, give one way people can get in touch with you. And I want you to know that you cannot put a link in that about section that's clickable. You can put a link, it just won't be clickable. So make sure that if you're going to put a URL, you might want it to be an easy one, like just charles.com, or you might just want to say, private message me if you'd like the link to my free guide, blah, 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 if it's some kind of really messy link. Okay, moving on. We're almost done. So let's talk about content do's and don'ts. When you're posting on LinkedIn, LinkedIn actually likes when you have a long post. So you want your post to be 8 lines or more because that signals the read more button on LinkedIn. And for some reason, they like that. And they like when people click on that and it tells LinkedIn, wow, this post is juicy and valuable and people like it. So if you're going to post on LinkedIn, I would recommend repurposing posts from other platforms so you're not reinventing the wheel all the time, but make sure that it's just spaced out in short, simple lines and try to make it 8 lines or more. Also, you're going to want to establish yourself as a thought leader. So it'd be great to post your thoughts on a current industry thing that's going on. It would be great to talk about maybe a polarizing view you have to something going on in your field. And then the other thing you can do is in your content at the end, rather than saying, comment info below for my blah, blah, blah guide, which does work on other platforms. But for some reason, LinkedIn likes it better when you ask an engaging question that will lead to comments on your post. So you want to actually say something like, let me know your thoughts on this below. Or which tip did I miss out of these 3 tips for blah, blah, blah. Or what's your favorite business book or something like that. So a couple other things. Look at your insight to see what's working well for you and people in your field. So you can actually use your LinkedIn insights if you want. You can also, instead of just posting yourself, going back to what we talked about earlier, comment on other posts so that you're being visible and people can see you and find you. And the other thing is, it's okay to share personal stuff on LinkedIn. A lot of people think it has to be about business and stiff and robotic. But the truth is, I have a friend who had very viral posts on LinkedIn, and his most popular post was about how he adopted his 2 daughters, and it had nothing to do with his business. So, couple quick content don'ts. We don't need to be dancing in Instagram Reels on LinkedIn. Sorry, you don't need that. You don't need to repurpose those. You also don't need to be overly stiff, as I said. It's okay to share stories. It's okay to be vulnerable. Obviously, be professional, meaning don't post bikini pics and whatnot, but don't miss adding calls to action to your post as well. You know, do add the call to action, but make sure it's an engaging one, like one that invites them to comment. Don't post long, chunky paragraphs without spaces in between. And do not use LinkedIn engagement pods. That's something where you pay to be in a group or you are in a free group of friends and you guys all go comment on each other's posts. The reason I don't recommend that is because LinkedIn can kind of catch on if the same people are always commenting on your post. They don't like that. So they want it to be real, and it can kind of tell when it's not real. So here, I'm going to skip through these examples, but I do want you to know that if anybody here is listening to replay and you're feeling stuck or you want a content audit on your LinkedIn or you need a profile audit or something, feel free to reach out. And a couple other things. If you are wanting to build relationships on LinkedIn, let's just recap and show some examples. In your relationship building, in your messaging on LinkedIn, keep it short. Don't cram everything into one message. So you guys might have received on LinkedIn really long salesy messages. Those do not work. Keep it short. Ask a question. It's a dialogue. It's a back and forth. Don't cram everything into one message. Also, test different intentional questions. So going back to what Charles said, where he's like, well, what works the best? You're going to have to test with your audience what they respond to best. You might start with what are you working on these days? But then that might get old and you might need to switch it up. So test different questions and know that sometimes not everybody's going to respond to your second message, meaning your message you send when they accept your connection request, and that's okay. But know the stats that usually 60% of people respond after 4 touch points. Okay, so a touch point is a connection request. That's an example. Liking someone's post, that's a touch point. Messaging them, that's a touch point. So it can be, you guys are engaging and building the touch points up, and eventually they should respond. Also, just a couple other do's. One thing I do for my clients is we set up the targeting and we do the intro message and the second message for you. And then we let you personalize it from there, which we highly recommend, so that you're not sending out a whole funnel. Some people will send out whole entire funnels on LinkedIn messages, and it gets out of context because somebody will answer you and then you send the next automated message and it's really weird, right? So don't do that. But I do also recommend batch checking your messages. So if you're going to use LinkedIn, you don't need to be sitting around all day answering your messages as soon as they come in. It will drive you crazy. Set a time, use the unread filter, answer all your messages at once, and then get off the platform. Do invest in Sales Navigator, as we talked about today. Do focus on why collaborations would be a win-win. If you're doing that, don't just talk about yourself and what you want from somebody. Focus on why it would be a win-win to work together and focus on them. Come from curiosity and looking to be useful. And lastly, the don't. Do not be inconsistent. If you're going to use LinkedIn for lead gen and partnerships and getting clients, you do have to have volume and you do have to have consistency, which is why we do this for clients, because they run out of time to start the combos. And then they get to focus on actually the meaningful part of the conversation and answering their messages instead of having to do the targeting, remember who to, send this connection request to, etc. And then the last thing is don't ask assumptive, offensive questions. So the questions are important. If you are a weight loss coach, it probably won't make sense for you to use LinkedIn and say, hey, are you looking to lose weight? Because you can't tell. Someone might take that the wrong way. So make sure your question can't be misconstrued or misread in a text version of it. The other thing is don't overthink what to post. Just start repurposing some of your other posts from other platforms, unless it's a dancing reel, as we talked about. And don't skip voice notes or video notes. You can personalize. You can test. If I send a voice note on LinkedIn instead of written note, does that get a better response? If I send a personal video to somebody, does that get a better response? Don't be afraid to test stuff. Okay, last thing. Really quick, is this okay, Charles, if I show this?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. Everybody's watching the slides. You can see a picture, and it's a message I got in my LinkedIn inbox that I responded to. And so I'm going to show you what can you say to people to not be weird. So this is somebody who sent me a message and said, hey, Hailey, hope you're well. Came across your profile and saw you have a few mutual connections. So what do I love about that? He found something personal that we had in common. And he mentioned that we had a few mutual connections. So if you guys are using LinkedIn, start reaching out to people who you have something in common with, whether it's mutual connections, you live in the same town, you're both entrepreneurs, whatever it is. And then I enjoy connecting with like-minded business owners and thought I would reach out to connect. I look forward to chatting further. Cool. So he just said, I want to connect. I checked out his profile. I saw he's a podcaster. So I said, oh, awesome. Thank you. I see that you're a fellow podcaster. Maybe we can explore podcasting together. And then he said, yes. Happy to do podcast swap. And that was it. And then we had a podcast swap. So it was like 3 messages and a podcast. So easy. Yes. Here's another example. I sent this to someone in my field who I wanted to connect with. I said, hey, I'd love to connect. I work with many in the coaching business, always looking to meet others in the industry. And they said, me too, pretty much. I'm looking to connect with others too. And then I said, what are you working on these days? Or I asked a question about something. I looked at it on her profile or something. And then she said, at the moment, my focus is speaking opportunities. If you know of any good opportunities, please feel free to send them my way. And naturally, of course, I have a speaker pitch template that's a freebie. And so I said, would it make sense for me to, I do have like a little template for getting speaking opportunities. Would that make sense to send over? And then she liked that and used it, right? So same, one last example, same kind of gist of connecting, great to connect with others. She asked what I'm up to these days. So then I shared that. And then I said, what are you up to these days? And then naturally she shared what she's up to. And I said, that's awesome. And now what I said is, if you're, she kind of shared that she's looking to expand in health coaching, and I have a free networking community for that. So I invited her to my free networking community, and she became a part of that. So as you can tell, all these, it's human interaction, and it's not linky and spammy and has to be this whole agenda. Like, see where it goes. But I think that it's a great place to network and to connect. So for everybody here who watched this and you want more examples of kind of like what you could say, and you want to dig deeper into what we talked about today, you can get a freebie at haileyrowe.com/LinkedIn. and get a little script example, get a replay of kind of how LinkedIn works, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that we just kind of cracked open the onion that is LinkedIn. There's so much more, and I thank you for jamming so much value in there. We'll put a bunch of this together in a lab report. But I'm telling you guys, this is just the beginning of what LinkedIn can do, and you can already tell that this is an intentional platform. This is just not, hey, I'm going to put it out me dancing, which I'm still kind of bummed that I can't put me dancing in a bikini. I know we all wanted to see that. But the fact that we opened this up and there's so much more and that you give that value and you can help out people and do it, you've convinced me that now I actually fix my LinkedIn. I will get working on that. But if someone wanted to contact you, what is the best way? I know you gave it for on the screen, but if someone's just sitting there and they're like, I want to do it on my phone right now, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I would say Instagram. You can just DM me. I'm Instagram.com/Hailey_Rowe. It's HAILEY_ROWE. And I help people with other platforms too, but LinkedIn is just one of my favorites. So if you have any questions about today or you want to share what platform you market on, feel free to DM me and I would love to connect.
Love it. I'm glad we finally got around to getting this done. There was so much value in here. Most of you guys are going to probably play this over and over again, and then they're going to hunt me to bring her back on the show again. So we'll see how that all works out. Thank you so much for giving so much value. I truly appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, that's a wrap on another episode of the Proven Podcast. Stop planning, start proving. Your competition is taking notes while you should be taking action. Remember, if it's not proven, it might just be pretend.